nice to all be together here in person for the first time. So welcome to everybody out there in internet land, and welcome obviously to the panelists. And we'll let you know exactly who they are in just one second. Wanted to talk to you just to let everybody out there know we have all been fully vaccinated at least 3 times. We have had RAT tests today. And we have had, and we are socially distant, and we are eating. So we are fully compliant with all of government regulations. Okay, so hopefully everybody is okay and understands all of that. I'm Chris Parker. So I work for Top Schools. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Top Schools. And with me today, I have some very distinguished panelists from Malvern School. So if I'm just going to go around and ask them to briefly introduce yourselves to the audience, that would be fantastic. Can we start with you, Maria?
Thanks, Chris. My name is Maria Gabriel. I am the head of prep here at Malvern College, and I've been here since the start, since July 2018.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
I'm Wayne Ma. I'm the head of senior school, and although I've joined Malvern Hong Kong only at the beginning of last academic year, so I've been here for 2 years, I've been with Malvern for nearly 7 years, as I was previously at Malvern College in Egypt.
Fantastic, thanks. No problem.
And I am Robin Lister. I am the headmaster here in Malvern, Hong Kong. And prior to coming here, I was what was called the senior deputy head in Malvern, UK. And prior to that, I was a housemaster in Malvern, UK.
Fantastic. So lots of in-depth experience with Malvern. So it's great stuff. Okay, so we've got a few questions that we're going to use to sort of structure the discussion. But the discussion today is really around how to choose the right school for your child. And this is a really, really, really important decision, as we all know. And so we're just going to discuss about that. We're going to dive into our tea and biscuits. I hope you'll bear with us if we do that. We'll try to keep it fairly informal. We will have time for questions and answers at the end. So hopefully, if there are any questions, please chuck them into the comments there or into the chat box, and we will get to them as soon as we can. So without further ado, let me dive over and grab Robin for the first one. So big question, Robin. Okay, so what criteria should I look for when choosing a school for my child?
Well, I'm going to start off this evening's conversation with something of an anecdote, and forgive me, colleagues, if you've heard me talk about this before. Some years ago, the headmaster of Malvern, UK, Anthony Clark, and I, when I was the senior deputy head, we sat down one late afternoon to try to work out what it was that we wanted our pupils in Malvern, UK, to demonstrate once they've left school. We had thought this conversation would take an hour or so. In reality, the conversation went on for 6-9 months and ended up involving not only the teachers in Malvern, UK, but the old Malvernians, and a wider and wider community conversation. And what came out of that was what have come to be called the Malvern qualities. We define those kind of things that we wanted our pupils to demonstrate once they had left school. They have all had a superb education, but beyond their academic credentials, we wanted our pupils to demonstrate such things as resilience, integrity. We wanted our pupils, once they left school, to be risk takers, not silly risk takers, but educated risk takers. We wanted them to challenge the environment. If you want to read more about Malvern qualities, please go online and do so, but they are an integral approach of what a Malvern education is all about. And that, I think, is what a potential parent should be looking for. You can understand that every school has a good or great academic curriculum. But what I would recommend is that you look for the hidden curriculum of the school. And in our case, that is all to do with the so-called Malvern qualities. And they are qualities we take very, very seriously. Our conversation may come back to those in a moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure they will. So yeah, thanks very much indeed for that. So it's kind of about, and it's not just about the hard numbers, the hard qualifications. It's about the personal, softer.
Absolutely right. At developing a child's character, developing a child's personality, and we try to put into place various things to try to bring that into fruition with a child. So not just the academics. Academics are frightfully important, but they shouldn't be seen exclusively as to what a Malvern education is all about.
Okay. And that goes all the way through, right from the early years of Malvern School, right the way through.
Right from PYP, our P1s up to upper sixth. They are part of Malvern identity, these qualities I've talked about.
Can I add on to that?
Please,
and obviously, talking about the Malvern qualities kind of leads into this in terms of the ethos and the values and the beliefs of a school. And that's one of the things that I would say also I would encourage parents to do, is doing their homework on the school and looking for what are the values of the school as well. And obviously our Malvern qualities
it's getting that balance right, isn't it? I mean, it's easy sometimes, relatively speaking, for schools to focus on the numbers, on the rankings, on how many pupils get an A star or they get distinctions at IB or whatever. But it's much more difficult somehow to look into a school and actually see those slightly softer elements.
And if I could add a little bit more to that, I think the so-called softer elements are really, really important. I would warn potential parents not to be swayed too much by looking at a website, not to be swayed too much by looking at lovely brochures. We've got great brochures. Most schools have wonderful brochures. But I think you've got to see through all of that. And the best way of doing that is actually to try to visit a school, to pick up. You can almost feel what a school is like within 10, 15 minutes. And nothing can beat coming to a school, preferably when there's pupils around, and so you can see it in action. And preferably if you get a chance to speak to me or my colleagues or teachers, that's when you really get to grips with what a school is all about.
And slowly we're getting back there to the point where in-person events are becoming once again more, and it is really, really important in terms of the school to be able to assess that culture. Even when I've been going around schools in general and Malvern in particular, you do pick up a sense much more clearly of the culture of the school. And when I'm talking about soft skills, I'm not denigrating them in any way versus the sort of hard skills. It's important to get a balance of both if you're going to have a fully developed young person. I think that's the way to put it.
Right.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for that, Robin. That was really useful.
Pleasure.
Can I just go back to you and also perhaps bring in Wayne on this one and talking about the potential pitfalls. I mean, we've sort of touched on them, but I mean, what potential pitfalls should parents be wary of? Not just when they're looking at schools, but I mean, teachers and curriculums and all kinds of stuff like that.
I would follow on from what Robin was saying about not just taking what's in glossy brochures, actually, yes, visiting the school, speaking to teachers, speaking to pupils, and allowing children, when they do tours around the school, new potential children, to speak to the current pupils, and they get a good understanding then of really what the school is about. Obviously, when there's adults and other teachers around, the students themselves might not be as open as honest, but we're trying to build that in. But I would say a question that I usually pose for parents when they're coming on tours around the school, or what I'm hearing from them, is that quite often when they're considering a school for their child, they've got maybe a bit too much in the back of their mind what their own education was, and they're trying to replicate what they liked and what they wanted as a child. And schools have changed dramatically in only the recent past, not just since when I was at school, but just in the last 2, 3, 4 years, even what we've gone through with COVID in the last few years, the change that online learning and technology, schools have really transformed. So I would encourage parents to really try and avoid just thinking about their own experiences at school. Yes, we want parents to be comfortable with the school that they've chosen for their child, but also, as Robin was saying, we do try and instill in the pupils taking a bit of a risk, but parents need to do that as well when they're looking at school and trying to spot kind of modern approaches to education and not just replicating what they went through.
With your background, because you were in Egypt before, we were talking earlier on, do you see similar issues in Hong Kong as you perhaps saw with parents there? The same issues apply?
It's the same theme, yes. I think there in Egypt, similar to Hong Kong, there's actually quite a a significant tradition of British schools in
Right.
in Egypt, and sometimes some of those schools were selling themselves on being British curriculum and British ethos, but maybe didn't have as many British staff and the experiences and kind of ethos and values from another school outside of Egypt. But the parents who had been through those schools in Egypt and then were looking for a school for their child maybe sometimes thought they knew what they were getting into for their child, and then sometimes would see the school as being quite a bit different, and sometimes it kind of made them a bit worried, but most of the time they would actually get quite excited that they're seeing these values and the character of the child developing, and the focus being on academics, but also on these other elements of school.
Brilliant. That's really useful. Yeah, okay, great, thanks. Yeah, I mean, I think back to my childhood, and I think I'm arguably the oldest member of the audience.
Not sure about that, but
possibly second, but anyway, we're of an age, and I can recall, and I one of the things that going around Hong Kong schools has shown me is the fundamental way, and Malvern is a classic example of the way it's fundamentally changed since I was at school. It really was, and I mean, it just incredible, with the opportunities that there are for kids to learn all sorts of different things, including, as you say, the softer elements of life and being a good person and all that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Key question, particularly, I'm sure the audience out there, if you've heard of IB, you've heard of A levels, you've heard of all the different. Which curriculum is best for my child? How do I decide?
Well, I would say that there is more to a school than a curriculum. And actually, one of the things that Robin and I this morning, I don't know if you remember our conversation in reception this morning as we were greeting the children, you said, when you walk around campus now, what do you feel?
happy. You feel the happiness in the school.
So I think
genuinely we talked about this morning.
we did, and we talked about it, and we said, okay, it's our 4th year. We've built that culture, that community is, we feel it now. Happy, a caring and nurturing environment. And I would say, yes, look for the curriculum, but also look for that and see if you can pick up that safe and nurturing environment. That's something that we definitely do here. But also, obviously, the curriculum is an important part, and I think that's about knowing your child. How how do they best learn? Are they hands-on? Do they prefer to learn things by doing things? And look for that curriculum, and obviously try not to be influenced by your own education at that point as well. That would be
Understood. Yeah.
And I'd agree on that kind of curriculum, it's a major part of the school, obviously, but it's not everything about the school, and schools may have the same curriculum. There are a number of schools in here in Hong Kong that do the MYP, but that we do here as well, but Malvern UK doesn't do the MYP, so we have a difference to there. But I would say we have a lot of similarities to Malvern UK with the values and the ethos that we try and build into the school. So the curriculum is important as a school, but it's not, for us as the educators in the school, it's not the driving factor for us. So actually try and encourage parents to yes, they need to consider the types of curriculum that might be suitable for their child. Look at online, there's plenty of resources and reviews online for comparing different types of curriculum, but really for the parents to try and delve into the school and how they then kind of
how to
deliver that curriculum within the classroom. What does the classroom look like? I think it's that feel for the school. It really, there's no way of beating it by coming into a school and seeing and hearing and really is feeling what's happening in the school.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And when parents come into the school, are they how much can they get involved in, as it were, the school day? And are they able to go and sort of stand at the back and see a lesson, or how does it work when they come to visit the school?
Our classrooms are all like fish bowls. They're all glass, so they can easily look in from the outside. But yeah, I think they can also go in and have a look. Our pupils are very welcoming.
Yes,
I'm sure they'll be pulled in as well by pupils into the classrooms.
They're very interested. So who's these strange tall people walking around?
I mean, one of the greatest experiences I have when as a head I'm stuck in front of my screens for too long, and when I want to escape from my room, I go around the school, and particularly, not exclusively, but particularly in the prep section, the primary section, if I go into a classroom, the children will volunteer. They come up to me and say, they want to explain what they're doing and why, and they gather around, and feeling that enthusiasm is just, it tells me that we're doing it right here.
Yeah.
To go back just briefly to the question of what formal curriculum, what academic curriculum, I'm going to be a little bit biased here, but I would say in 2022, what parents should be looking for are curriculums that are concentrating as much on skills as on the transference of knowledge. Now, we are an IB school because we believe that the IB does that we are inculcating in children a whole range of skills as well as a bedrock of knowledge. And I think in the years to come, children will need to develop all kinds of skill base that perhaps when I was a boy just wasn't necessary. So what we're trying to do at Malvern is prepare children for a future that we're not altogether clear about. The jobs are going to change remarkably, I think, in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So teaching children skills, teaching children to be problem solvers, teaching children to collaborate with each other, to even question the teacher, question the validity of the textbook. We think in doing all these things, we're preparing children as best we can for a world that's going to change and change quickly. So look for a curriculum like the IB, I'm biased, which is looking at skills as much as knowledge. That's what I would say.
That's a good point. I've come across lots of instances of children as young as, I guess, 8, 9 years old starting to look at computer coding and all this sort of thing. I mean, the sort of thing that was just completely just not available to me, let alone anything else. Not sure I'd have been terribly interested in it myself, to be honest with you, that being my personal preference, I'm afraid. But nonetheless, what a fantastic skill to have as you go forward. And of course, there's the one of the real pluses about being here in Hong Kong is the language skills as well, because you're bilingual, correct? Is that yeah?
Well, every child has. It's generally a lesson a day in Chinese.
Right.
Occasionally they miss that, but it's generally 5 times a week. So Chinese is taken very important.
So it's very, very, very important. Great. Okay. So that leads on very neatly to the key question, which I guess is if somebody is doing one curriculum, and it can go either way, I suppose. How easy is it for it to change? Are there certain points when it's easier, or are there certain points where it's impossible?
Well, I would say yes, it's easier when the child is still young, and obviously they can adapt to a new curriculum and so on. But it's again about what's the good fit. Is it that the child is better off to continue with that same curriculum path, or is it better for them to change? Curriculums are not suitable for all children, and all children might not find that that curriculum is a good fit for them. But I would say, yes, younger down, you can transition, you can do that adjustment quicker, but perhaps not higher up. Maybe
it starts to become more challenging as the children become older and move through the particular curriculum. And obviously a lot of the teachers, it's not just teaching one year group at a time. You're always looking to the end point, and we're pushing them towards graduating with their qualifications, but with these skills and things as well. So it does become more of a challenge, but for us, that's where we put a lot of time and effort into transitions, not just between curriculum, from PYP to MYP. We put transitions on. Our Prep 6s are coming up to see the senior school at the moment, even though we're all in the same building, but from one year group to the next, and welcoming in new pupils. And a huge success we've had with that is actually the pupils themselves welcoming in, helping new pupils to fit in. Sometimes my experience has been children moving from one curriculum to the other. It's not about the curriculum, it's about the ethos and the values. And I know we've had a few pupils that have come to Malvern, and then maybe teenagers having to look at wearing a tie and blazers, and that's something that they find as a little bit strange and different.
Myself, as you can see.
So I think it is challenging for children to change year groups, but looking at what kind of support that the school and the family put in place.
I think that's the point, isn't it? It's about support. I suppose with the best will in the world, anything is possible, but it's all about the support structures that are in place, both in the home and in the school. And we'll probably come back to that a bit later on as well. So great, thank you. Okay. Ooh, Robin.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about this sort of more or less constantly, and it's definitely is a theme, I think, as we're going through this. But the big question, which is more important, skills or knowledge?
When I was a boy,
Not to put you on the spot or
yeah,
anything like that.
right. When I was a boy, which is a long time ago, it was absolutely definitely knowledge. I mean, when I went to a good school, I didn't particularly enjoy it, to be frank. We had desks in a row. The teacher was at the front wearing a gown, and it was 99% of the time, he put across a bunch of knowledge which we then had to regurgitate. The world has moved on. A good school shouldn't do that anymore. In fact, I think knowledge is becoming less and less important. Why? Simply, most of us carry iPhones or the equivalent, and we can get any knowledge we want virtually instantaneously. That isn't an excuse not to teach knowledge, but it kind of puts knowledge in its base. Knowledge is also changing very radically. So I think alongside teaching knowledge, and it's more important than the knowledge, is how to use knowledge. And then we're back again here to this idea of skills. So what we do here in Malvern is teaching how to analyze knowledge. So children can make some kind of initial judgment as to whether knowledge is trustworthy or not. Perhaps they can look at two different stories and see which is more truthful. We teach children the importance of analyzing things. We teach children the importance of being able to critically analyze the knowledge that is out there. There's a lot of, as you and I know, there's a lot of knowledge now on the web that isn't particularly trustworthy. So one of the things that we do is to try to give children the skill base and make a judgment as to what knowledge is actually trustworthy. I don't know. Would you want to add what other skills do you think that we need to concentrate on?
Critical analysis, actually, it's quite a high order skill. If I'm thinking about my rubric or whatever, the levels of different knowledge, I mean, it's always about the knowledge first. Being able to analyze is at that higher level.
I'm not sure entirely whether I agree with that. I think you'll begin to teach very young children analytical skills.
Well, I mean,
Maria, do you not think?
Yeah, the IB, obviously, with the approaches to learning skills, that starts from the beginning, and through the units of inquiry, the program itself, you pick the key sub skills that you can enhance through the unit. And so we start with research and actually, even at that young age, how to ask questions and what questions to ask and how to find the answers. And obviously it varies then in terms of analyzing what they are finding in order to make sense of it. So we talk about obviously taking things and putting them into your own words in order to not to copy and paste and so on. So from that age we do. And the beautiful thing about the ATL skills, the approaches to learning skills, is every year they build on them through a different unit and enhanced on the next level. But that keeps on going even into MYP. Then.
And this is another reason why it's really important to come and visit the school and talk to the teachers, because I didn't know that. I've always thought the critical analysis and research was something that's a university level, but of course it needs to start now, and the more likely or the better you start it now, the easier it's going to be long term.
And I would say that's probably from our schooling and things that yes, critical thinking was considered something you would only do towards the end of school or at university, but because we're doing it from a young age and it's just part of their everyday curriculum, that it's not then as challenging. They're doing it all the time. And in senior school we try and kind of encourage the pupils that skills are across all of the subjects as well, rather than learning their scientific skills and their English skills, that there's an overlap, and a big one for us is communication. It's about not just the different languages that they speak, but how do they communicate as a scientist using their English skills or using their other skills. And because we do it right throughout the school, then the pupils don't perceive it as something as a significant
it's not
challenge.
a hurdle to be overcome, it's actually an enabler.
If I could add one other thing, which I think is crucially important, one of the things that the IB does really well, and we latch onto it strongly, is to teach children from the little 5 and 6 year olds onwards, right up to 18-year-olds, that they shouldn't always compartmentalize the different subjects. We try to ensure that children realize there are connections between physics and English and maths and geography. It's breaking down those artificial barriers, which I think is crucial to a child's ability to actually be a problem solver, to look at things in a fresh light. And that, I think, is pretty unique, dare I say, to the IB curriculum.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, very good. Yeah. I think you went to the same school as me, Robin, possibly without the gowns, but I'm sure there was a cane in the corner.
There was, and it was
Yeah.
used too.
Yeah. Not on me, thank God. But there we go.
It was on me just once.
So, okay, very important. What can I do as a parent to further my child's development, or to help further my child's development? Right.
I think for young children, for primary age children, I would say connecting with the teacher. It's a partnership. It's not home and school. It is very much communicating and connecting with the teacher to find out how the child is doing. Teachers do the same. They reach out to the parents and do that as well. And knowing from them what is it that the parents can be doing at home, and continuing that. So it's a continuation, basically, of the learning. But at the same time, those key things of spending time with your child, reading, talking about how the day was, and seeing if they can transfer those skills as well at home. We let it happen naturally, and we try not to focus so much on homework or cramming lots of activities. It's very much, we say, reading is actually a habit. It shouldn't be homework. It's something that you do as
many children will be going, "Oh, yay!" breathing a sigh of relief at that one. But I accept. And it's about, say, working with parents so that they're having the same sort of values, not the values that they necessarily had when they were at school, but the values that they're trying to develop in their children with Malvern in this case.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. Okay. Talking about that, I mean, values in children. How do you instill values in children? Robin, why don't you take that one?
I think there's two ways of doing it.
One is you grab the bull by the horns and you actually give an assembly or a tutorial period or a lesson on integrity. For example, that's exactly what I did with an assembly last week. I gave an assembly on integrity. But I think more important than that is to teach these values more subtly. What do I mean? By actually demonstrating to the pupils that's how we run the school. So they just pick up on how the school runs. So teaching these things explicitly is good and it's very helpful, but I think the implicit, almost infecting the children with these skills is even more important. Would you
Don't use the word infecting.
Well, maybe not infecting.
That's what the COVID-19 says, obviously. We're not quarantining at school these days. But what you mean it's about living and breathing.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I would say our teachers do that. They role model those values.
That's the phrase I was looking for.
Right.
Modeling.
Yes.
And when, obviously, with younger children, they see the teacher modeling, they may not recognize it. So then it's about, hey, children, did you see what I just did? That was me being a risk taker. How was I doing that? I did this and this. So it's maybe making it a bit explicit, but not.
Almost analysing, asking them to analyse what you just did, and in a critical sense, which we were talking about. Very interesting. I mean, in terms of just going back to one of the questions we were talking about before, we talked about inside the school. How can parents can? What about outside the school? What can the school do to support the parent more?
I think, we do the usual formal events such as workshops for parents. When we work, obviously, we mentioned transition. We obviously have transition as well for our preschoolers coming into Malvern College. But I think one thing that we do, which might be a bit hidden, is if we notice that a parent or a family might be having a challenge, whether the challenge is with the child or the challenge as a family from a certain perspective, then I tend to reach out, in a personal way by picking up the phone, and actually that goes a long way than writing an email and maybe being misunderstood in the email as well, and just working with the parents. So if it's holistic. So the pastoral side doesn't just stop with our pupils; it's also for our parents sometimes. So we offer support if there is a challenge, and we also talk about if there are things that they could perhaps reach out to the school and talk about. And it's always confidential. It's always a safe environment to talk about that. So I think, that's something that our parents themselves have actually written back and said how grateful
So
they
there's,
are.
there's almost like there's sort of the skills for the child, but also if they would need it or if they feel they would like it, there's also potentially skills help for the parents in some extent.
Absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely.
Which I think can only go.
We did a tremendous workshop the other week on child behaviour and how to support behaviour.
Yes.
I thought that was incredibly well done, actually.
Yes, and that's an opportunity for parents then to also at the end say, can I schedule a meeting
Yeah.
with whoever's running the workshop? We leave our emails on the slides and so on if they want to reach out and have a personal conversation.
It's sort of, and it's about building that relationship as well between teacher and parent, and teachers across the school and parents, because I think that's really important. Housemasters, you have a house system here as well, don't you? I saw that, which is another way of sort of being able to focus in on the child a bit more personally and all that sort of stuff. So it's great.
It's like Maria was saying about communication, that we want parents to communicate with us, let us know if something's happening at home, but we put a big focus on that our teachers and things should be communicating home. There should never be surprises when parents get the report at the end of the year. There should always be that communication. And actually our house system, the class teachers in primary, but the house tutors in seniors, there's a lot of communication that they do one-to-one, either with the pupils to see how they're getting on, but also with the parents. And that's something that I think that schools should value, the communication out to the parents. We know what teenagers are like in senior school. They don't always want the communication going between home and school, but it's something we kind of think is really important.
I'm sure I can remember back that far, but anyway, I understand, yeah. Well, look, I think, we're sort of about sort of 35 minutes or so, so I don't want to go on for too long, but I think just before we have to questions and answers, how do you, if people are out there, if they would like to know more information about Malvern, about the Malvern method, about the skills of the attitude, the culture of Malvern, how should they get in touch? How should they reach out?
I shouldn't have denigrated our website or brochures. I think that
very good, honestly. Yeah.
They are a good place to start, to go on the website and read about the school. But I think even better than that is to contact our admissions department and see whether you can have an appointment to come up and see the school. As I say, I think we all agree the best way of understanding what we're about is to come and see us in action. I think that's the most important thing.
Absolutely right. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, thank you very much indeed for that. Absolutely brilliant. I think we're going to just break now, see if we've got any questions from the public now. Okay, so we haven't got any specific questions at the moment, but I think what I'm going to try and do is just go around and ask you just to give a quick summing up. If you're in I don't know, 30 seconds, if we can. Okay.
So who's going to start?
Keep it simple. I'm going to come to you first, Robin.
I'd emphasise a couple of things. One, to go back to the conversation that we had a few minutes ago about the importance of skills, skills alongside knowledge. I think that is where a good education has to go over the next few years. It is skill based, and the other thing is to come to Malvern and any other school you might be interested in. The best way to find out what a school is like is to try to set up a visit.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Wayne?
For me, I think just kind of summarising that parents should take some risks and kind of think of schools being different to what they went through, but exploring what the schools, and when they do visit schools, to really question the schools in terms of what is behind their curriculum. Okay, the grades and statistics are one thing, but really can they kind of delve into the values of the actual school.
Good. Thank you for that. And Maria? Last but not least, of course.
Many things. I would say communication, once at that point of choosing the school, communication, ensuring that communication is an open channel. If there is something that is happening, don't shy away from telling it to the teacher. As I mentioned, knowing is actually better because we can support in an informed way. But I would say also looking for, from the visit, pick up the culture of the school and see if you'll be able to tell if a child pulls you in, and they never rehearse it when they come up to you and pull you. It just happens.
It does.
That gives you an indication of the environment, the environment of the school.
Fantastic. I've been around a number of schools and they have been distinctly different, so I can highly endorse that. Go and have a look at a number of schools by all means, and have a look at the culture and see which works for you. But if Malvern Culture does, then let's reach out to the admissions team, and they'll be only too happy to help. So I just want to say a big thank you to Robin, Wayne, and Maria, and
Thank you.
to all of you out there. It's hard to know whether you are actually out there. I'm just staring at a camera, but anyway, I'm sure you all are, and I hope you found it useful. What we'll be doing, obviously, is making this into a YouTube and a podcast, so be able to refer to it at your leisure. But please feel free to reach out to the admissions team here at Malvern, and they'll be only too happy to help. Thanks again, and see you soon. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.